Good evening. Welcome to APTN National News. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Well, we're going to kick things off in Ontario, where the province is reporting 3,166 new COVID-19 cases today and 23 deaths. Health officials are warning that due to a technical issue with laboratory data in some regions, today's case count actually might be underreported. Ontario's daily numbers have largely remained under the 3,500 mark throughout the past week. Over to Manitoba, where the number of COVID-19 cases today surpassed 500. This is among the highest daily totals in the province since the start of the pandemic. 502 new cases were reported, most of them in Winnipeg. The city's 5-day test positivity rate has reached 11.3%. Manitoba cases have increased by 25% compared to last week, with ICU rates also up. The province is expected to announce tougher public health restrictions at a news conference this evening. To the north now, the Dempster Highway runs through the Yukon and is the only highway that reaches the Beaufort Delta region of the Northwest Territories. But COVID-19 restrictions have made it difficult for people in that region to travel to the Yukon to get supplies, see family, and even harvest caribou. People want the rules relaxed. APTN's Sarah Connor explains.
What's the weather like in Inuvik today?
It's snowing. Winter's not over yet.
Lawrence Niando lives in Inuvik, a small community in the Mackenzie Delta region of the Northwest Territories. Like many Gwich'in people in the Delta, Niando has family in the Yukon and travels there frequently to stock up on supplies.
It's a place for people to go get the shopping done. The prices are a lot cheaper there than they are in Inuvik or any of the communities here.
The Dempster Highway goes through the Yukon and is the only road that reaches the Mackenzie Delta. But since COVID hit, traveling the Dempster has been difficult because of self-isolation rules.
It's definitely tough, right? It's mental health for not only us, but everybody else up here that needs to get out, wants to get out, see family members and get all the stuff they need done, right?
Now, Mackenzie Delta residents like Niendo are asking for an easing of restrictions with their next-door neighbor.
We have a big connection over there, and we've had very few cases here, and the Yukon's the same, and it'd be nice to have a bubble.
Our people depend on the Yukon Territory.
Ken Kikavicic is the Grand Chief for the Gwich'in Tribal Council. It's advocating for a travel exemption between the Beaufort Delta region and the Yukon. He says Gwich'in families living in both territories have been separated because of pandemic restrictions, especially when it comes to funerals.
Certainly, that has been something that's been incredibly difficult when you do have close family members that are unable to attend the funeral services just due to the timing.
Kikavicic says self-isolation requirements have also prevented Gwich'in and the Yukon from participating and harvesting caribou in the Northwest Territories.
With Gwich'in people, we have a certain level of dependence upon the porcupine caribou herd and the annual harvest of caribou to feed our families, for sustenance.
It's likely a travel exemption for the Beaufort Delta is in the works. Yukon Premier Sandy Silver hinted plans are underway.
It's something that we're continuing to work on, and I'm very confident that we'll have an announcement within the very near future on what we can do.
Rules are relaxing in both territories. And NWT fully vaccinated people entering the territory now only have to self-isolate for 8 days instead of 14. Later this month in the Yukon, self-isolation won't be required as long as people can prove they're fully vaccinated. Niando is hopeful that means a drive down the Dempster will soon be a reality.
We need out. We're waiting at that border, knocking on that gate.
Sarah Connors, APTN National News, Whitehorse.
To BC, where an attack on Indigenous protesters near the Ferry Creek blockades was caught on video. The video shows a confrontation between loggers and protesters who have set up blockades to protect old-growth forests. That's on Vancouver Island. APTN's Lee Wilson has more. No. We're going to move on. Well, an Alberta mother has been found guilty of manslaughter. We'll get back to that other story in a minute. In the death of her 5-year-old child, Shalana Arcand. We have APTN Edmonton video journalist Chris Stewart with details on today's decision. Chris?
Court of Queen's Bench Justice Avril Inglis found enough evidence to convict Lauren LaFlèche from the Alexander First Nation in Alberta of manslaughter in the death of her 5-year-old daughter, Shalana Arcand. LaFlèche was acquitted of charges of second-degree murder, assault with a weapon, and failure to provide the necessities of life. In October of 2015, 5-year-old Shalana Arcand was taken to the Stollery Children's Hospital in Edmonton with severe injuries to her head. She died 3 days later. Lauren LaFlèche told police that her daughter had fallen out of bed. However, a doctor testified that the injury to Shalana's body was consistent with injuries suffered from a high-speed car collision. Shalana was malnourished, had extensive bruising over her body, and had previously healed injuries to her liver and kidney. The defense suggested her injuries were possibly suffered from falling off monkey bars a few days before she was taken to hospital. In her decision, Justice Inglis said there was not enough proof to show LaFlèche intended to harm her daughter. The charge of manslaughter could be up to life in prison. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Edmonton.
The federal government recently pushed back their commitment for clean water to First Nations communities. Their original goal of March 2021 has come and gone. They admitted that in December it was an unachievable goal. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh joins us now to discuss. Mr. Singh, thank you so much for being here with us today. The Liberals admitted that they overreached on having clean water in all First Nations communities by 2021. They've changed that target again to 2026. APTN was part of a consortium that did an investigative series called Clean Water Broken Promises, which found numerous problems with the federal plan for First Nations water projects. What are your thoughts on all of this? So, sort of the missed target, what the investigation found?
I want to commend the investigation and the work you did to highlighting the problems. And really what it highlights is this was a fake promise from the beginning. And I don't accept that it's going to take 11 years, because that's what the Liberals would have you believe. They made the promise in 2015. They formed government. They missed their 6-year target. Now they're adding 5 more years. So they're saying that it's going to take 11 years in a country as wealthy as Canada, with the technology we have in the 21st century. That is completely unbelievable. I don't accept that. Would that ever be the case if there was not clean drinking water in Winnipeg or in Ottawa or in Vancouver, Montreal or Toronto? No, they wouldn't say you got to wait 11 years. There's no way that if one of the wealthiest countries in the world wanted to get this done, that they could not have got this done sooner. I don't buy it.
Yeah, well, and people have said too, we seem to have no problem getting clean drinking water in other countries, yet we can't do it here. It's sort of bizarre, as you said. So you've seen the 2021 budget. Do you think that the Liberal commitment to infrastructure in this year's budget, is it sufficient?
Well, that's the thing. This time around, it looks like they're allocating the right amount of money, but then all it does is just highlight that they didn't allocate the right amount in previous years. So if they knew that it was going to take a certain amount, why didn't they allocate that 6 years ago? Like, it really just adds insult to injury, because now they're saying, oh, look, we've got enough money budgeted to get this done. Well, then why didn't you do that 6 years ago? And you let people and communities wait 6 years when you knew that was an insufficient amount? I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just ludicrous. Like, it's so frustrating. And clean drinking water has become the symbol of Liberal government inaction. It's become the symbol of their pretty words, saying the right thing, but then not doing it. It's literally been symbolic of Justin Trudeau's hypocrisy, where he says the right things, but then never does it.
Last week, Canada's Auditor General Karen Hogan appeared before a House committee. How would you rate the response by Indigenous Services bureaucrats to what she brought up?
Yeah, she really highlighted that there is a clear systemic problem, that this is not a one-off or just like a fluke. It's clearly and consistently a pattern of behavior that the adequate resources, adequate priority and prioritization of the needs of Indigenous communities are being missed on a systemic basis. It's not just, one person dropped the ball. It is a clear systemic approach, systems-wide, that they're not actually prioritizing the needs of Indigenous people. That's really the takeaway message.
You know, let's get in our time machines for a second here and travel back to 2015. Let's pretend your party won the last 2 federal elections. What would you guys have done that would have been any different, that would have come up with better outcomes for First Nations?
Every single resource possible I would put towards making this happen. Because this is really about human rights. This is about dignity. This is about accessing something that is so vital for human life. Having clean drinking water is a fundamental, basic starting point. We need to do far more than that to rectify the injustice that Indigenous people have faced. This is just a starting point. So putting every resource possible, having all the experts possible, speaking with Indigenous communities who have said, we know the solutions. We're often just being told what to do as opposed to being partners. Having a partnership and a relationship where it's nation to nation. All these things aren't just words. If you have a relationship or partnership, you can actually have and invite in the solution. Sometimes local communities will say, that's not going to work. You're not going to be able to build the water site plant over here. We know, we've been here for so long. We know that that's not going to work. And so listening to the traditional knowledge, making sure that Indigenous communities are involved in the solutions, making sure that there is a partnership, all these things can be done. There's just no way when we can have the technology that we have in the 21st century, the things that we are able to achieve with technology, that we can't figure out how to get clean drinking water to every community in Canada. I don't believe it's not acceptable to me.
Well, and that investigation that we did as part of that consortium, that water investigation, operations and maintenance was part of it. So, in often cases, we were discovering that, the equipment is there, but nobody's trained to maintain it, and there's no maintenance money for that. Is that something? Do you think that this government's finally figured that out?
Well, we know that if you want to build a system that works, you've got to have the infrastructure, you got to have the training. You have to have the budget to ensure that maintenance is ongoing. That is a complete solution. So I think what the Liberals are trying to do is just kind of check off a box. They're like, oh, we did this and we did this. But they weren't actually trying to solve the problem. And for me, what I've shown throughout this pandemic and as a leader, I'm not about checking off a box. I'm about getting results. And a result in the case of clean drinking water isn't just trying to make a flashy announcement that, oh, look, we've cleared this, we've cleared one of these water advisories, for that same advisory to go back on the list a month later or a year later. That to me is not finishing the job. Finishing the job is, if we think this all the way through, what is it going to require? It's going to require the equipment, it's going to require people, it's going to require training, and it's going to require ongoing funding. That is a complete solution. I think we need to plan out things for complete solutions, not just to check off a box.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're always interested to talk about water.
Thank you. It's an honor, and thank you for all the work you've done. You've really exposed a lot of the problems, and I think the work that you've done is going to help us push for the solutions that we know can be achieved, and we're going to continue to fight for those.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That award-nominated investigative series on the federal government's water projects can be found on our website, aptnnews.ca/clean water broken promises. Well, we want to hear what you think about the federal Liberals' efforts to get clean drinking water to First Nations. Here's how you can continue the conversation. You can send your news to your emails to news@aptn.ca. You can leave a comment on aptnnews.ca. You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and now TikTok. You can follow APTN News to join the conversation and to see our latest stories. We have got to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to have that story about the Vancouver Island loggers clashing with protesters at an old-growth forest that I told you about earlier. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, we go to BC now, where an attack on Indigenous protesters near the Fairy Creek blockades was caught on video. The video shows a confrontation between loggers and protesters who have set up blockades to protect old-growth forests on Vancouver Island. APTN's Lee Wilson has more.
Their livelihood from Western Line.
A group of forestry workers yell at protesters near the Walbrand Valley to get off Western Forest Products land, expressing frustration that their jobs have been affected by blockades that have stood for nearly a year. The Rainforest Flying Squad an environmental group behind the blockades, say they are protecting old-growth forests near Port Renfrew, Vancouver Island. Katie George Jim, niece of Pacheedaht elder William Jones, a leader of the protests, says tensions have been building on the logging roads.
3 separate incidents beforehand that were all different people that were threatened by these industry workers, and then the violent retaliation of them earlier interacting was specifically targeted at the only visible minority and Indigenous people at the camp.
Maybe you should go home and collect your welfare check that we pay for.
The confrontation then started having racist undertones, referring to welfare checks and go back to your teepees. Then one of the forestry workers can be seen attacking an Indigenous protester, knocking the phone to the ground. Aya Clappis is a youth from Huu-ay-aht First Nation. She is against the old-growth logging in the area.
Several Western Forest Product contractors who are extremely aggravated, extremely angry, and really just, embodying such a deep hate. I think that reflects the racism that is embedded in, the industry culture.
In a statement, Western Forest Products said they were made aware of the incident. They paused operations while an investigation took place. Yesterday, in a statement, Hume East Ventures, a subcontractor for Western Forest Products, condemned the actions on the video and stated they will be meeting with local First Nations. Please be assured, we'll do everything to address this incident swiftly and with the serious and respectful focus it deserves. In an email statement to APTN, RCMP say Lake Cowichan RCMP are sending investigators. The Lake Cowichan RCMP have since proactively sent investigators to the area to speak with victims and witnesses to determine their wishes in this matter. APTN reached out to the Ditdat and Huu-ay-aht First Nations, who have agreements with the logging companies, but did not receive a response for the story. George Jim says the threats and violent acts of the other day will not change their stance.
This will not deter our supporters, and it will definitely not deter me from speaking about the significance of these types of targeted violence on the land and to the land. So,
Lee Wilson, APTN National News, Kitimat.
We need to take another break, but when we come back, an Indigenous teen is a world champion today. We're going to tell you all about that. Welcome back. It's time now for our photo of the day. Today's photo comes from our viewer Richard, who captured this outdoor basketball hoop minus the hoop while an international flight can be seen in the background there, because that's one of the signs of the times to reduce contact. Stay safe out there. Be sure to send your photos to share at aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's go and take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. Off to the east coast, we got 5 and cloud for St. John, sunshine, and 13 for Fredericton. Kuujjuaq, a mix of sun and cloud, and 8 degrees expected, 10 for La Grande River, and chance of showers. Saguenay, sunshine, 12 degrees, sunny in Montreal too, but 16. Ottawa, showers, and 11. Sault Ste. Marie, showers, and 7. So look out, 9 degrees, some cloud there. Thunder Bay, sunny, and 12. Puckatawagan, rain and 6 degrees. The Pas, sunshine and 10. Sunny and 13 degrees expected for Winnipeg, 14 and sunshine down in Brandon. 17 and showers for Swift Current, 13 and sun for Saskatoon. 11 and sunny for L'Orange, 12 with a mix of sun and cloud for, or 13 mix of sun and cloud for Buffalo Narrows. Fort Chip, mix of sun and cloud and 13 degrees, mix of sun and cloud and 17 for Fort McMurray. Lethbridge, showers expected, 15 degrees, same with Calgary. 18 and sunshine expected for Kamloops, 14 and a mix of sun and cloud for Victoria. Prince Rupert and Sandspit, cloud and 11 degrees, 13 and sunny in Prince George. 16s for Mayo and Dawson City and sunny there, same with Beaver Creek. Norman Wells and Wrigley, both 15 degrees with sunshine expected. Trout Lake, 18 and cloud. Fort McPherson, a chance of snow and 3 degrees. Palatec, mix of sun and cloud and 4. Nuyat, -3 with a mix of sun and cloud. Same with Chesterfield. Iqaluit, chance of snow, -4 degrees. Pangertung, mix of sun and cloud and 4. Iqaluit, mix of sun and cloud and 1. Well, Team Canada captured the gold medal last night at the World Under-18 Hockey Championship in Texas. Canada beat rivals Russia 5-3 in the gold medal game. It was Canada's first gold medal at that tournament since 2013. Helping the team capture gold was Connor Roulette, a member of the Mississippiwistic Cree Nation here in Manitoba. Roulette finished the tournament with 2 goals and 3 assists in 7 games. The 17-year-old will now prepare for the upcoming NHL draft this summer. Big congratulations to them. Well, accountability can be hard to find in many First Nations, as band offices don't have to be open books like other governments. This week, APTN Investigates reporter John Murray looks at one First Nation, Ministiquan, where some band members struggle to find answers in for trust or profit. He joins us now from Edmonton. John, good to see you. So tell us what's happening in this community.
Well, the community is Ministiquan Lake Cree Nation, and it's just north of Lloydminster, Saskatchewan. And what's happening is several community members are really frustrated with what's happening in their community, and they can't get the answers they want. When Chris Stewart and I showed up in the community, we seen what looked like an infrastructure crisis. There was bad roads, there was boarded up windows, there was closed down public facilities. And you know, honestly, it could be a crisis of funding or it could be a crisis of management. But we couldn't get any answers from the chief. He wasn't even in the community when we were there.
You know, this it sounds familiar. How widespread is the problem?
Well, we know quite well many First Nations across Canada are suffering from infrastructure problems, whether it's roads, water, or any other basic services. So in some ways, Ministiquan may not be that unusual. But what makes the community worth looking at is band members are saying that this has been ongoing for a long time, and they even protested last November. But to draw the conclusion that corruption or management problems are widespread, that's really incorrect. The real problem is the Indian Act itself, and really a lack of institutions that can provide accountability.
So you're in the community. You know, is it everybody's upset about what's going on there with the infrastructure issues? Everybody's on one side of it, or what?
Well, it seems like there's a lot of people that are on one side of it, but there are community members that are supportive seem to be supportive of what's going on there. When we were in the community, we were approached by one community member, and they didn't like that we were taking pictures of the community, and they were very clear they didn't want those pictures taken, and they didn't want to see them on national television, and you know, and the person was angry and even threatened to call the police. But ultimately, I just explained why we were there, and I even gave her my business card.
Well, we look forward to that tonight. Thank you for joining us, John. Always good to see you.
Always great to see you too, Melissa. Thank you so much.
You can watch for Trust or Profit Part 1 right after the national news on APTN Investigates, which is right now because we're all out of time. I'm Melissa Ridgen. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you back here with your weekend news tomorrow. Have a great night.